A stranger in the rain. The rain fell in heavy sheets across the city, turning the evening streets into rivers of reflected neon light. Sarah Mitchell pulled her worn jacket tighter as she hurried down the sidewalk, her shoes splashing through puddles that seemed to grow deeper with each step. The weight of grocery bags cut into her fingers, but she didn't slow down. Emma would be waiting at home, probably doing homework at their small kitchen table, wondering when dinner would be ready. At 32, Sarah had learned to carry burdens that felt too heavy for her shoulders. 3 years had passed since David left, taking with him not just his presence but also the financial stability she had grown accustomed to. Now, every dollar mattered. Every grocery trip required careful calculation. Every month brought the familiar anxiety of wondering if she could make rent. As she turned the corner onto her street, Sarah noticed a figure huddled beneath the broken awning of the old bookstore. The man sat on the concrete steps, his shirt soaked through, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. He wasn't one of the usual homeless individuals she sometimes saw in the area. Something about him seemed different. Displaced rather than abandoned. Sarah slowed her pace, her natural compassion warring with the caution that single motherhood had taught her. The stranger looked up as she approached, and their eyes met briefly. His gaze held a weariness that she recognized, the kind that came from carrying invisible weight. "Excuse me," she found herself saying, stopping a few feet away. "Are you all right?" The man straightened slightly, surprise flickering across his features. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just waiting for the rain to stop." His voice was cultured, educated, with a hint of something that might have been vulnerability. "It's not supposed to let up until morning," Sarah replied, glancing at the dark clouds overhead. "Do you have somewhere to go?" He was quiet for a moment, and in that silence, Sarah saw something she understood deeply, the look of someone who had found themselves in circumstances they never expected. "Not really," he admitted. "My phone died and it's complicated." Sarah knew she should keep walking. Every practical instinct told her to wish him well and continue home to Emma. But standing there in the rain, looking at this stranger who seemed as lost as she often felt, she heard herself saying, "I live just a few blocks from here. You could dry off, maybe use my phone to call someone." The man's eyes widened. "That's incredibly kind, but I couldn't impose on you like that." "It's just for a few hours," Sarah said, surprising herself with her insistence, "until the rain stops." And so, 10 minutes later, Sarah found herself unlocking her apartment door with a complete stranger beside her. Emma looked up from her math homework, her 80-year-old eyes curious but not alarmed. Sarah had always been good at reading people, and Emma trusted her mother's judgment. "Emma, this is ... Sarah realized she didn't even know his name. "Michael," the man said, offering a gentle smile to the little girl. "Michael Chen. Thank you both for your kindness over the next few hours." As Michael's clothes dried and the rain continued its relentless drumming against the windows, Sarah found herself drawn into conversation with this unexpected guest. He was careful not to reveal too much about himself. What she learned, he was in the city for work, that he had been caught off guard by both the weather and some unexpected circumstances. What struck Sarah most was how naturally he fit into their small evening routine. He helped Emma with her math homework, displaying a patience and skill that made the girl beam with understanding. He insisted on helping with dinner, despite Sarah's protests, and proved surprisingly capable in their tiny kitchen. "You're good with kids," Sarah observed as they watched Emma show Michael her collection of painted rocks. "I always hoped I'd have children someday," he replied quietly. "Work has kept me busy though. Sometimes I wonder if I've missed out on the things that really matter." There was something in his tone that made Sarah look at him more closely. Despite his expensive clothes and educated manner, Michael carried himself with a loneliness that she recognized. Success, she had learned, didn't always translate to fulfillment. As the evening wore on, Emma eventually fell asleep on the couch between them while they talked. Michael's voice grew softer as he shared stories from his childhood, and Sarah found herself opening up about her struggles as a single mother, her fears about providing enough for Emma, her dreams that sometimes felt impossibly distant. "You're stronger than you know," Michael said at one point, his eyes serious. "Emma is lucky to have you." The words touched something deep in Sarah's heart, a place that had been aching with self-doubt for longer than she cared to admit. When morning came, the rain had finally stopped, and sunlight streamed through Sarah's small kitchen window as she made coffee. Michael had slept on the couch, and she could hear him stirring as the coffee maker gurgled to life. "I should probably get going," he said when he joined her in the kitchen, his voice carrying reluctance. "I have a meeting this morning. A new job, actually." "I'm glad the rain brought you our way," Sarah said, meaning it completely. Michael smiled, but there was something he seemed to want to say. Instead, he simply thanked her again and left, disappearing into the morning crowd with a promise to stay in touch that they both knew might be difficult to keep 2 weeks later. Sarah was rushing through the lobby of the downtown office building, where she worked as a night shift cleaner, when she stopped short. There, on the wall behind the reception desk, was a large photograph she had somehow never noticed before. It showed a man in an expensive suit, smiling confidently at the camera, beneath the words Michael Chen, Chief Executive Officer. Sarah's heart hammered as she stared at the image. The Michael she had invited into her home, who had helped Emma with homework and insisted on doing dishes, was the CEO of the very company where she worked. That evening, as she was finishing her cleaning rounds, Sarah found an envelope on her cart with her name written in familiar handwriting. Inside was a brief note and something that made her hands shake. "Sarah," the note read, "that night in the rain reminded me what truly matters. I hope this helps with some of your dreams. Your kindness changed more than you know." Michael, the check was enough to cover 6 months of rent and Emma's school expenses, but more than that, it represented something Sarah had almost stopped believing in. The possibility that kindness could come back to you in ways you never expected. She never saw Michael again in the building's hallways, but sometimes, when the rain fell heavy against her windows, Sarah would remember that night and smile, knowing that both their lives had been changed by a moment of compassion in an unexpected storm.